Hey, Shalom, Shalom. We're glad to have y'all back again this week, Israel. We're going to be talking about Jacob's trouble. We've heard a lot about it. When is it? Did it happen in 70 AD? Is it going to happen in the future? So we're going to get right into this because we have a lot of information. We're going to answer those questions. We're going to show when it starts, when it finishes, and things of that nature. Now, I'm Brother Yabal, and this is my good brother.
Brother Jew.
Did you have some information for us, King, as far as class?
Con,
Um,
con. Moving forward, starting next week, we'll be conducting class at the same time at 7 p.m., but on Mondays. So be on the
all right.
lookout for Mondays going forward.
Con. Like you said, on Mondays. And so we're going to get into this thing. We're going to start off in Jeremiah 30 and 7. I'm going to go ahead and present my screen. And we're going to show you that Jacob's trouble is in the scriptures. And then we're going to see what Christ has to say about it. Because Christ is going to give us a hint on when it starts and when it finishes. Okay. So that being the case, let's share the screen. You got us, King?
Con. It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30 and verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it.
All right. So when we talk about Jacob's trouble, we know that Jacob is the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. And this scripture seems to say that God's chosen people are going to go through some trouble. Okay. Now, I want to show you something about this word trouble. Let's go into our tools and let's look up a definition here. Uh, where does it say trouble at? Trouble. Jacob's trouble. There we go. So we got the Hebrew number 68 and 69. Let's get that real quick before we really dive deep into this. So it says right here, the King James Version translates Strong's H6869 in the following manner: trouble, distress, affliction, adversity, anguish, tribulation, and adversary. So it says that same Hebrew word, which is right here. We're going to listen to it.
Strong's H 6869. Sarah.
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 That word is translated 3 times in the Old Testament as tribulation. So we're talking about Jacob's trouble being affliction, anguish, tribulation, trouble, tightness, adversity, adversary. So we have a lot of information there on what this is, okay? So let's go now to Matthew 24 and 21. Let's see what we have here. 24 and 21. Go ahead and read that for me if you would, King.
Con, this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24 and verse 21. For then shall be great tribulation,
Great
such
what,
as was
King?
not great tribulation.
So we just read that there would be great trouble, right? And Christ is repeating the same thing, but when the translator translated, rather than saying Jacob's troubles, it says tribulation. Go ahead and read, King.
Such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be.
So we saw similar language in Jeremiah 30 and 7, right? So what I want to show you is Christ says, for then there shall be great tribulation. So he gives you a starting point. And we're going to go back and see when that starting point is in just a second. But what I want to show you is that he says there's an end as well. Jump down to verse 29, King.
Verse 29. Immediately After the tribulation of those days,
Say
shall
that
the
again, King.
sun immediately after the tribulation of those days
So
shall the
after the tribulation. So now he's going to tell you things that happen after the tribulation, as well as he's going to tell you when the tribulation starts. Okay? Go ahead and finish that verse, King.
of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the
Mm-hmm.
moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken.
Con. Now let's get into this thing. Let's dive deep into it, okay? So what we have, let's start in verse 1. I want to show you something. Show you what's going on here before we delve into it deep. Go ahead, King. Go ahead, King.
Verse 1. And Yahushua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to shew him the buildings of the temple.
So the disciples are excited. They're saying, "Look how beautiful this is, Lord." And how does Christ respond? Verse 2.
And Yahushua said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down.
Okay, so Christ says there's an event that's going to happen. And so I want to show you something real quick. Let's stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to read this, King, because I'm not sure that you're going to be able to see it. Let me present my screen real quick again. All right, so we're going to look at the siege of Jerusalem, okay? All right, so this says siege of Jerusalem up here at the top, 70 CE, or we'll say 70 AD, after the death of Christ, okay? So right here at the beginning, it says the siege of Jerusalem in 70 CE was the decisive event of the first Jewish-Roman war. So it gives a time period somewhere between 66 and 73 CE. A major rebellion against Roman rule, because you got to remember when Christ was on the scene, the Romans were ruling Jerusalem. And this is happening in the province of Judea, okay? Now there's something that happens. Let's go down here where it says after. After months of fighting, they breached its defenses. The Romans breached the defenses and destroyed the second temple. Now, when we were looking at what Christ said, he says that not one stone should be left standing. And what the disciples pointed out to Christ was, look at these buildings. These buildings were buildings associated with the temple. It says razed most of the city, which means they set it on fire and killed, enslaved, or displaced a large portion of its population. Now, I want to read something to you out of a book called From Babylon to Timbuktu. Is by Rudolph R. Windsor. And we're going to go to page 84 in the middle of the book. So he puts this as 70 AD. He says in 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period of military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people. During the period from Pompey to Julius, so he's given rulers of Rome, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery. The slave markets were full of, let me read that again. The slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves. Okay? So I want y'all to get a hold of that because we're trying to establish when did or when will Jacob's trouble start. And if you don't know who the people are that Jacob's trouble refers to, then you have no idea. Okay? So now let's go back to, we're going to go back to the scriptures. Let me unshare what I just did. Present my screen again. All right, so we were in Matthew 24. And so what we did was read the first two verses. After we had shown you down in verses 21 and 29 that there is a start and an end to this persecution. Now what we showed you was who this persecution is toward. And according to this author, Rudolph Windsor, it's the black Jews, as if there were any other. See, what this book lets you know is that the Jews are black. Okay? So let's go down now to verse 9. I'm sorry, before we go to 9, let's do this real quick, King. Let's go to verse 4 and 5 real quick. And we're not going to read this whole section. Then we're going to go to verse 8, and I'm going to show you something.
This is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, and verse 4. And Yahushua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many.
So Christ starts talking about events that's going to happen after his decease. And he talks about wars and rumors of wars, people coming in his name to deceive you. And we know that they gave us white Jesus, okay? Then he talks about nation rising against nation. So he gives an overall depiction of things that are going to happen. Now, verse 8 says what, King?
All these are the beginning of sorrows.
So he calls those the beginning of sorrows, okay? Now, let's start in verse 9. Let's get busy. He's
Verse
talking
9.
in verse 9 directly to the disciples. Now, what we're talking about is Jacob's trouble, okay? Go ahead and read, King.
Verse 9. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake.
Now, he's sitting down with his disciples, and he tells them that they are what? They are going to be killed. He said, and shall kill you. He tells them that they're going to be afflicted, but then he leaves no doubt. Hey, this isn't going to go well for you in the sense of what we think carnally up on this earth. They're going to kill you, right? Now, remember, we're talking about great tribulation. We're talking about anguish. We're talking about trials upon your life. And he lets the disciples know what's going to happen to them. Keep reading, King.
And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another.
Now, if I had read further down in what we were reading about the siege of Jerusalem, you would see that there were two factions within those walls. And while the siege was happening, they were fighting against each other. See, the overthrow couldn't have happened unless we had wicked brothers who were going to stand against us during the time of our affliction. And when I say brothers, we really don't know what their ethnicity is because all like skin is not necessarily kin. Read, King.
And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many.
All right, all right. So let's jump down to verse 14.
And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come.
When is the end of the tribulation? You read that again.
And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come.
The mark of the end is going to not be the preaching of the gospel. There's something else coming. But the preaching of the gospel has to come, and then the end's going to come. And we're going to show you what's going to mark the end in a minute. But what I want to show you is that he already gave you the beginning. See, when he talked about not one stone shall be left upon another, right? We see the siege of Jerusalem happening. Many were killed and many were put into prison. That's your beginning. On top of that, something else happened. Before that happened, the very beginning was this. We went down to verse 9, and this is what he told his disciples. This is what marked the very beginning of Jacob's trouble. Because you got to remember, the disciples are Israelites. Read, King.
Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake.
And what was this? What did verse 8 say?
All these are the beginning of sorrows.
All these are the beginning of sorrows. You see what I'm saying? See, we have to identify the people to understand what went on because slavery really matters in Jacob's trouble. You're going to see a theme throughout this thing. The Romans, the Europeans came in and enslaved the people. You see what I'm saying? And they're going to continue this throughout centuries. All right. So let's go down now. Let's go to verse 24.
Verse 24. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall shew great signs and wonders,
Mhm.
insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect.
So, if it were possible, these signs, these wonders, these preachers going out there and they're blowing on you, slapping you upside the head, saying you're healed with a cross hanging behind them, a picture of a white Jesus. If it were possible, even the very elect would be deceived. And many of us were deceived for a period of time. Go down to verse 20, what was that, 24? Go down to 25, King.
Behold, I have told you before.
Keep reading.
Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers. Believe it or believe it not.
Believe it not. See, when Christ comes, it's not going to be secretly. We're going to show you the importance of his coming, okay? Now, if we would, King, let's go to Matthew 24 and 21. And while you're getting there, Mark 24, I'm sorry, go to Mark 13 and 24. I'm going to back up to Matthew 24 and 21 and read that. Then I'm coming over there. But go ahead to Mark 13 and 24. So Matthew 24 and 21 said this, and my brother read this earlier. For then shall be great tribulation. Now we just been reading under this, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. Okay, so we showed you part of that was us going into slavery. Part of that was the temple being destroyed. Part of that was Jerusalem being taken. You see what I'm saying? Part of that, how you're going to be deceived and stay in slavery, is accepting a false Christ. And so what you have to realize is these things are already taking place. You're not waiting on these things to happen. Christ said at the time that the Temple Mount got destroyed, it started the Great Tribulation. So let's go down to let's go to Mark chapter 13, verse 24.
Con
Go
is
ahead
the
and
book
read,
of
King.
Mark,
So I
chapter
just
13.
went back and read to you Matthew 24 and 21. For then shall be great tribulation. Now let's see Mark 13, 24. Let's continue from there.
Is the book of Mark, chapter 13, verse 24. But in those days after that tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light.
So after those tribulations, what's going to happen, King?
The sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light.
Let's keep reading all the way down to verse 27.
And the stars of heaven shall fall, and the
What's going to happen,
powers
King?
and the stars of heaven shall fall.
Okay, so what it's telling us there is when it talks about the stars of heaven, it's talking about rulership here on earth. Those that are in rulership, the nations in power, Rome, Great Britain, and in this day America, what's going to happen?
Shall fall, and the
Mm-hmm.
powers that are and the
You went
powers
out,
that are
King.
in heaven shall be shaken.
They're going to fall and be shaken. Keep reading, King.
And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory.
Mm-hmm.
And then shall he send his angels and shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from the uttermost part of the earth to the uttermost part of heaven.
All right, so we had read that after the gospel is preached to every nation, all parts of the world, then the end shall come. Well, what shall be the end? It says, verse 26, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. Why is this the end? Because he's getting ready to end our persecution. He's getting ready to take us out of this tribulation. Verse 27, and then shall he send his angels and shall gather together his elect from the four winds from the uttermost part of the earth to the uttermost part of heaven. So let's go back up to verse 24. But in those days after that tribulation. So see, we're talking about all the way down to verse 27 after the tribulation, what's going to happen. So we gave you the start being Jerusalem getting ransacked. And before Jerusalem got ransacked, many of the apostles were put to death. And see, these were the starts of sorrows, the beginning of sorrows. Now we're showing you how this ends up. It says, but in those days after that tribulation, you jump down to verse 26, Christ comes in the clouds. That's why he told you, if they say come in the desert, they say come here, come there, don't go. That's why I had the brother to read that before we came over here, because you're not going to have to look for Christ. He's going to come in the clouds. He's going to send the angels to find you. See, he said, and then shall he send his angels, the verse 27, and shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from the uttermost parts of the earth to the uttermost part of heaven. And that's very important. It doesn't matter if you're serving this man's military, if you're on his police force, if you have your own business, wherever you are, if he sends you to the Middle Eastern war, he said he's come to gather you. See, you have a promise, and you don't have to look for him. You have to keep these commandments. Now, we jumped from Matthew to Mark because I want you to see this uttermost part of heaven, because I'm going to have to show you, Julian and I, how we got to the uttermost part of heaven. That's a strange saying, because you have pictured heaven being up in the sky and we having wings. That is not what it's talking about. And that's why I told you up here earlier in 25, heaven is not that up there, that in this verse. What it's talking about is rulership. So it doesn't matter if you're serving this man as a bodyguard. Christ come to get you if you keep these commandments. That being said, King, let's go to Deuteronomy 30, verses 3 and 4. We're going to show you this heaven and how we got there. This is very important in understanding what's going on, because we're going to show you the events of Jacob's trouble. So you'll know that you've already been going through. And we've already shown you that he's promised to take you out. But there are requirements for you to get out of this. Go ahead and read, King, verse 3.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30 and verse 3. That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion.
What's he going to do, King? What is our God going to do?
Will turn thy captivity.
He's going to remove you from captivity. Keep reading, King.
And have compassion upon thee.
Mm-hmm.
And will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee.
So the Lord scattered you in all the nations. And we got to find out why. And see, in those nations you have served as slaves. He said he's going to turn thy captivity and have compassion on thee. He's going to gather you out of these nations. You're not getting out on your own. Martin Luther King marched. That didn't help. Malcolm X said by any means possible. That didn't help. Only Christ getting you out of this situation. Read verse 4, King.
Verse 4. If any of thine be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven, from thence.
Isn't that why we came over to these verses, King? We wanted to see where the uttermost parts of heaven were. Read that part again.
If any of thine be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee.
The Lord himself going to gather you and fetch you. How's he going to do it? Christ said he's going to send his angels. It doesn't matter where you are. They could have put you in the baddest prison in America. They could have put you in the baddest prison in Mexico. You keep these commandments, he's coming for you. And there's nothing that can hold him back. He said you can be driven out to the outmost parts of heaven. They can put you on an island by yourself, and the Lord knows where his people are at. He's coming to get you. See, They put you in captivity. The Lord says he's going to turn that captivity. All right? So let's go to verses 2 and 3 of Jeremiah. Jeremiah 30. Let's further this point before we get into it more. You got anything to add to that, King?
La.
You gone out if you said anything.
La.
All right, we don't have you, King. I'm going to go ahead and read. All right, Jeremiah 30, verse 2. Thus speaketh the Lord God of Israel, saying, write thee all the words that I have spoken unto thee in a book. He's speaking to Jeremiah, the Lord is. For lo, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, both the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, saith the Lord. And I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. This is after the Great Tribulation. That's what's going to happen. But what he keeps telling you is during the tribulation, you're going to experience slavery. Let's jump down to verse 8. You back, King?
Can you hear me?
Con. Go ahead and read verse 8 for me. Jeremiah 30 and 8.
Con, this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 30, verse 8. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him.
So check this out. He said in that day, he's taking you out of captivity. See, you said, I've never had chains on me, but your forefathers did, and they didn't let you go back home. Not only did they not let you go back home, they didn't tell you who you really were. They told you were African. Well, what country in Africa are you from? Because if they know that much about you, they know you're African, then they ought to be able to tell you where you're from. See, what I read to you in Babylon to Timbuktu is you were in Jerusalem and you fled into Africa. And the reason you fled to Africa because those people's skin looked like you. You were hiding from the Romans. You couldn't go north because that's where Rome is. So you went south. You see what I'm saying? You went and hid amongst people who looked like you, but those people turned on you. On your way down there, the Arabs sold you into slavery. It's called a sub-Saharan slave trade. Then once you got into West Africa, you built it up into a fabulous, beautiful place. And Africans were selling you. And the Bible records all that, but we're not getting into that tonight. If we do a part 2, part 3, part 4, we'll show you all of that. But I'll get with Julian and see if that's what we're going to do and see how the Lord leads us. Verse 9, King.
But they shall serve the Lord their God and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them.
Con. So we're going to go into the kingdom and we're going to serve the Lord our God. And it says through David, their king. Well, we know that Christ descends from David, so we know who it's really talking about. Now, let's go ahead, King, and get into Deuteronomy 28 and 64. Let's look some more at this scattering, okay? Deuteronomy, because we read that the Lord scattered us, right? So let's find out why the Lord scattered us, why we're in the uttermost parts of the world, why we're in every nation. Go ahead and read, King.
Con, this is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from the one end of the earth, even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
Okay, so the Lord said that he scattered us. And he said, where we're going to end up serving other gods. Wood, well, that's what the cross is made of. That's Christianity. And stone. Well, in Mecca, they kissed the cobblestone. And Mecca was one of the world's largest slave ports. And during the sub-Saharan slave trade, they made us kiss the cobblestone. They being the Arabs. See, you think Muhammad's your friend. Now you call yourself a Muslim. You're not Islamic. Your home's Jerusalem. You're an Israelite. And we're going to show you that tonight. You are the people of God. And that's what all the controversy in the world is about right now. That's why the destruction's happening over in Israel. And we're going to touch on that in the next few weeks. We're going to show you what's happening. We're going to show you Gaza is in the Bible, right? We're going to show you what's going to happen to the people over there calling themselves Jews. It's in the Bible. See, prophecy is being fulfilled. Even all the bombing that's happening in Tel Aviv right now is in the Bible. And we're going to show you that's what's going to happen to the people there. Okay? So let's keep reading. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and 15. So we've established that God scattered us. And we established once we get here, we're going to be Christians and we're going to be Muslims, right? So let's go to verse 15. Let's see why this happened to us. Because we're talking about the Great Tribulation. Part of it is slavery. We got to show you that. Keep reading, King.
Is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, and verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So the tribulation, part of it is these curses. They're going to come upon thee and overtake thee. You can't get away from them. Why? Because you didn't keep God's commandments. Why? Because you didn't keep his statutes. See, when you started worshiping a false God, the God of the Christian church, they started telling you that you don't have to keep the commandments. But the Lord said he punished you for not keeping the commandments. So who's telling you the truth? Have you gotten out of this captivity or are you still over in this land? That should answer your question. Because he said when you start doing right, he's going to deliver you from this land. And he's going to put you in your own land. He's going to put you back there. Why hasn't it happened if Christianity has been so right? Because down here in Alabama, where I'm at, in our neighborhoods, there's a church on every corner. But you know what's around it? Liquor stores and rundown houses. So I'm trying to figure out if the disciples came out and they saw the temple and it was so beautiful that they were trying to get Christ's opinion on it, why aren't we seeing the same thing from these buildings that we put up? They're supposed to be places of worship. Let's keep reading, King. Let's go to verse 20.
Verse 20. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me.
So you forsook him in Jerusalem. Then you get over here, you start worshiping false gods because you're afraid of this man that's over you. And the longer you do it, the longer you're in this situation. And so he says he's going to send you cursing and vexation and rebuke. Everybody's going to reject you and laugh at you. Keep reading, King, verse 21.
The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee.
What's going to happen with diseases, King? What's going to happen with high blood pressure and what do they call it, the sugar, and what else we have? All these diseases that black folks have. Who's going to cause it to cleave onto us?
The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it.
That's right. So because you are not serving the Lord, you're serving false gods, because you won't keep these commandments, the Lord said he's going to cause the pestilence to cleave unto you. While we're looking at that, King, jump over to Mark 13 and 20, because it keeps saying that he's going to do this until it destroys us. So let's look at Mark 13 and 20.
It's the book of Mark, chapter 13, verse 20. And except that the Lord had shortened those days, no flesh should be saved, but for the elect's sake, whom he have chosen, he have shortened the days.
So for the elect's sake, those that the Lord chose and they're keeping those commandments, that's the only reason that we're not all dead. He shortened the days. See, that evil man that's over you, he would have killed every one of you. But he can't. He can't. Because the Lord stepped in and saved you. And that's not the salvation of eternity. That's the salvation from your enemy. And he hasn't put you back in your land. You're still here fearing for your life. Every time that blue light come on behind you, you wonder, is this the last time? Should I pull out my strap and fight? Or should I let them question me and put cuffs on me? That's what's going through your head. It's bad over here, but you don't want to admit it. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 28. Let's go to verse 30. Go ahead, King, when you're ready.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 30. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof.
So we look at this verse, and a lot of times when we teach it, we say, yes, and when they put us in slavery, they slept with our wives. They took us out of our homes and brought us over here. They took us away from our land so that what we planted we didn't get. Well, I'm going to show you another avenue on this because these curses are going to be on you forever. We're going to see that in a minute. We're no longer having someone holding us in hard bondage. It says, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. It didn't even say your oppressor is going to do that. You know who's doing that? Your own brother. You know who's allowing it? The woman that you betrothed. That's what we're living in. That's Jacob's trouble. Keep reading. Well, you read that part, King. Then you're going to build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Well, tell me what happens in divorces. The woman takes your children, she takes your house. I mean, why can't we tie that to today if it says the curse is going to be on us forever? These are Jacob's troubles. See, what the white man did to us, we're continuing today. And he's given our wives power over us to do these things. You got to choose right. And then when you choose right, you have to also be teaching your wife how to walk in integrity. Because as you put things away to build for your children's future, she can look at those things and say, I can be living mighty good without him. And see, when you're taken away from that house, in a vineyard you planted, you're not going to gather from it. Another man be sitting up there with his feet up in your recliner and sending your children out there to pick out of your garden, pick out of your orchard for him to eat. Let's go down to verse 32, King.
Verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand.
Okay, so we look at this as what happened in slavery too. Well, why isn't it when your wife leaves you and takes your house, she takes your children, and she marries someone of another nation? Why don't you see that as your sons and daughters being given to another people? You don't have no might in your hands to stop it. Because if you do stop it, you're going into their prison. See, what happened in slavery, we're continuing. But the scripture told us we're in this because we didn't keep the commandments. And I'm telling you that a wife is supposed to honor her husband, a husband is supposed to honor his wife. See, she's supposed to reverence her husband. Let me get that correct. And he's supposed to honor his wife, as a give honor to her as unto the weaker vessel. And then these things don't happen. But we can't do that because if we go down to verse 54, you know what? Before we go to 54, let's go ahead to 45 and 46. So let's look at this real quick.
Verse 45.
Verse 45, T.
Moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed,
We
because
read
thou
that earlier, right?
hearkenest,
Go ahead, King.
because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee.
So the reason for these curses pursuing you, see, they pursue you. Pursue means they chase you, they seek you out, they find you, and you wonder why you can't get ahead. Your children being taken from you, that's a curse. Your wife sleeping with someone else, that's a curse. That's before you meet her or while you're with her, because she's supposed to come to you pure. But we don't even see it that way. Mothers not teaching their daughters that. You know what mothers teach their daughters now? Don't get pregnant. They put them on the pill. That's not what's supposed to happen. We're supposed to have a community where we're saying you don't sleep with anyone but your husband. You save yourself until marriage. We're more concerned about whether a man can have two wives than we are whether than we are if our daughter is pure. Verse 46. We just talked about moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee. So now verse 46 is going to talk about the curses some more. It's going to say they. They is the curses. Keep reading, King.
And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
So a sign lets us know what something is. So these curses are upon you to show that you are God's chosen people. See, because if we had gone before verse 15, if we had read 1 through 14, it would have showed you the blessings for keeping the commandments. It says that these signs and wonders are going to be upon thy seed. That's your children. So even when you die, your children are going to suffer this stuff. So that's 45 and 46. Let's go back to husbands and wives. Let's go to 54. Because you got to remember, we teach a lot on family on this channel. And so when I read this, when I study this, the family aspect stands out to me. We're talking about Jacob's curses. And if you read this yourself, you're going to see it's a whole lot of curses. But this is about family. It's about the nuclear home, which is a man, a woman, and the children, with God as the head in Israel. Okay? But on top of that, it's about your community. And you can't have a strong community unless you have a strong family. And then you can't build a nation without a strong community and family. So we're trying to show you why we are in the situation we're in. Go ahead and read, King.
Verse 54. So that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead and finish that.
And toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the
Mm-hmm.
remnant of his children, which he shall leave.
So the nicest guy that you meet, his eyes shall be evil towards his brother. That's the very one that I told you earlier was going to sleep with your wife. And you would never believe it because you said, this guy here, he's humble, he's giving, he'll give you the shirt off his back. And at the same time, every time you turn your back, he's making eyes at your woman and she's making eyes at him. But see, his eyes shall be evil towards his brother. That's why he's able to do that. And at the same time, he might even be married while he's messing around with your wife and see his eyes evil towards his own wife of his bosom. That's saying the wife that he met at a young age and came up with. And check this out. And toward the remnant of his children that he might leave? No, he's going to leave them. He shall leave. This is Jacob's trouble. If it's not the black man that's known for leaving his children, then who is? Because if you don't identify who the people is that this is talking about, you'll be like the church still waiting on Jacob's trouble to come. Jacob's trouble been here since those black disciples went through what they went through, the atrocities, the killing, taken before judges and kings. That was the beginning of sorrows. And as it spread out throughout everybody, and then they came in, they attacked us. They didn't want us to be known as the children of God, as Psalms 83 talks about. Then it spread everywhere. Now we got Jacob's trouble. All of Israel is going through it. So that's the man. Let's look at the woman real quick. Let's go to verse 56. You got anything to add, King?
Con. So this is the Old Testament, right?
Con.
But I thought the Christian church said everything in the Old Testament had already took place.
hey, Chris Church said a whole lot of stuff, didn't it? Still saying it.
Con.
Our brothers finally waking up and leaving in droves. Praise God for that. All praises to the Most High. Go ahead and hit that 56, King.
Con, verse 56. The tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter.
So now we got the woman. The nicest woman you can meet. She speaks softly. She's always helpful. You have feast days, and she's the first one rolling up her sleeves, helping out. She cooks for everybody. She's hospitable when you have feast days at her house. She's made beds for everybody that's traveling to stay the night. Guess what? She hates her husband. See, it said her eyes shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom. And we just showed you that your woman is going to sleep with another man. Her eyes evil towards the husband of her bosom, but she's making eyes at everybody else in the room. The the man that she has deemed as whorish and will play with her, she is playing with him. Always in his face laughing, showing all 32. See, she's in his DM and he's in hers. But she don't only hate her husband because she doesn't mind breaking up her family. That hatred goes all the way to her son. But see, she doesn't only hate her son, she's scared that these same men might want her daughter. She's in competition, so she hates her daughter. See, that's why she doesn't mind her daughter getting pregnant. That's why she doesn't mind her daughter having sex, because she wants her daughter out the house. Got anything to add to that, King?
La.
All right, so let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and 68. And before we go there, I want to show you a picture. Let me do this real quick. I'll stop sharing our screen. And so I'm going to show this real quick. Let me show you this. If I can get it up. Here it goes. Now, what I want to do is show you some slave ships. And all I did was I did a search on slave ships. And every single one of them showed pictures of black people. I didn't see no slave ships where a nation of people went into slavery on ship that showed any other people. Look at this. Look at this. With their feet sticking out, heads up in there where they can't breathe. Look at this. This is our people. This is how they said they got us over to America. Right here in this one, they're showing the people on this level and cargo below. And here's a common picture that we see right here. This one right here in the middle. That one there. Slave ships. We're talking about Jacob's trouble. This is how they brought us over. Many of us didn't survive. I've heard most of us didn't survive, and they threw the bodies over. They said it stunk so bad that sharks followed the ships, and they threw the bodies over in the ocean. All right, so I wanted to show you that real quick. Now we're going to read something to you. Let me stop sharing my screen. Let me present again. We're going to get back to the scriptures. All right, so we're going to Deuteronomy 28 and 68. And then for y'all that are reading along with us, we're going to jump over to we're going to jump over to Deuteronomy 5 and 6, okay? And come right back to 28 and 68 because we got to do this for you to understand this verse. Okay, go ahead and read, King, and stop after ships, okay?
Con, this is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
So Egypt has to be defined here. There's been no recorded instance where the Israelites went into Egypt again. We went into Egypt and became a nation, and God delivered us from Egypt. And that's why we celebrate the Passover, okay? So let's go to Deuteronomy 5 and 6. We want to define Egypt for you. Want to read that, King?
Con, this is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 5, verse 6. And I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt from the house of bondage.
So the Lord said he brought you from the land of Egypt, but he gave a definition of Egypt. He called it the house of bondage. It's the house of captivity. We were serving as slaves there. So he's saying, I brought you out from the house of slavery. So let's go back to Deuteronomy 28 and 68, and we're going to read it with that context, okay? Give me a second to get there. Give me a second to get there. Okay, so we're going back, and this time, King, read it as slavery.
And the Lord shall bring thee into slavery again with ships.
Okay, so the first time we went into Egypt, we walked there and we walked out. Now he's saying he's taking a whole nation of people into slavery, and he's going to do it by way of slave ship. Keep on reading, King.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And
So he
there,
has said in the book of Jeremiah that we weren't going to see our homeland again. So he's saying, by the way I spake unto thee, I told you, you're not going to see your homeland again. And as a whole, we have not gone back to Israel. So he says, now, and the Lord shall bring thee into slavery again with ships. You're not going to see your homeland. And what, King?
and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for
You're going to be sold to who,
bondmen,
King? Wait a minute.
your
You're going to be sold to
enemies,
who?
your
You're
enemies,
going to, and there, in the place where you land with these slave ships, you're going to be sold to your enemies. And what's the purpose of this selling, King? What are you going to be?
for bondmen and
For
bondwomen,
slave men and
slave women.
slave women. And what's going to happen?
And no man shall buy you.
And that on the surface looks like no one's going to purchase you. That's not what happened. What he's saying is no one's going to redeem you out of that situation. That word buy, if you look it up in different places, is translated as redeem because there was a law about if your brother was sold into slavery, you were able to redeem him from that slavery. That didn't happen to us. When we got sold into slavery, we were left here. And so what's going to happen is only Christ is going to get you out of that situation. So the thing is, this isn't our first slavery. We're going to go to Psalms 83. I'm going to hit that real quick. If you go to the book of Judges, we will sin, we go into captivity. Then God will send us a judge. We defeat the people who took us into bondage. We do good for a period of time. We start sinning again after that judge dies. We go into slavery again. It happened over and over again. So why is God bringing up this slavery where we're going to our enemies at the end? Okay. What is different about this slavery? Go ahead, King. Let's read verse 1.
Con, this is the book of Psalms, chapter 83 and verse 1. A song or psalm of Asaph. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
Okay, so the Lord told you in Deuteronomy 28:68 that you were going to be sold to your enemies. And now it's showing you that these same people, they have come together and they're making a great noise. They're in a great uproar. That's what a tumult is about someone. Keep reading, King.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and
Okay, so
consulted.
listen, hold on. Now we're talking to God. Now we're talking about God's people because He said a crafty counsel against our people. So these people have gotten together, the enemies, and they've taken crafty counsel. They've made a plan to go against God's people. Keep reading.
and consulted against thy hidden ones.
So the plan, the whole time they're talking, all they're talking about is God people, the hidden ones. Keep reading, King. Let's see what they said.
They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation.
What did they say, King?
Come and let us cut them off from being a nation,
Keep reading.
that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance.
So this is what they came up with in the council. They said, now look, the Chinese enslaved them. They come back, they whip the Chinese. The white man enslaved them. They come back, they defeat the white man. The Japanese enslaved them. They come back and whip the Japanese. The African enslaved them. They come back and whip the Japanese. Now let's all come together. Now this time what we got to do is we have to separate the children from them and tell them that they are a nigger. Tell them that they are black. Tell them they're African American, Afro American, everything except for Israelite. And tell them that this book is for everybody and everybody can be saved. Right? So they said by doing that, they were going to cut us off from being a nation that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. See, that's what they were doing. So then it goes down in verse 6. Well, before that, in verse 5 says they consulted together with one consent. They all agreed this is what we need to do. And it says that they are confederate against thee. They have come together and said, we are blood brothers in this task. And it goes down and lists which nations did this. Edom, I'm not going to go all the way through them, but that's the white man. Ishmael, that's the Arab, the sub-Saharan slave trade. Moab, the Chinese. The Hagarenes, that's the Africans. Gabal, African. Ammon is Japanese. Amalek are those people over in Israel claiming to be us. Philistine, Palestinians. Tyre is African. I said I wasn't going to go through them, but I did. Asser, that's those people that call themselves Assyrians, okay? And then you got, where is it? The children of Lot somewhere in here. So all of the Asians. But look, this is what I want you to get to in verse 12. So they made a plan, but what was the plan? Verse 12 tells us exactly what the plan is. Go ahead, King.
Who said, let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession.
What did they say, King?
Let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession.
The houses of God are the 12 tribes of Israel. And they said, what we're going to do is we're going to make them slaves. But the slavery is going to be different than any other slavery. Up here, they told you this time we're going to make them forget that they are Israelites. Where is it? Right here. Nope, that's not it. Oh, right here, verse 4. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. So that was the whole purpose of this last captivity. And believe me, we're in the last captivity. Because if we go through Daniel 7, you will see that there are no more captivities after America. So what we wanted to show you was how this thing ends. Okay? So let's go back to Mark 13 and 24. We're getting ready to close this out. Go ahead, King.
This is the book of Mark, chapter 13, verse 24. But in those days after the tribulation, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light.
So we're talking about now after the tribulation, okay? We read this earlier, but I'm hoping after we showed you everything that we will go through the curses, which are also Jacob's trouble, which is also another word, tribulation. After that, the sun's going to be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light. And this is not talking about the natural sun and the moon, okay? Keep reading, King.
And the stars of heaven shall fall, and the powers
Mm-hmm.
that are in heaven shall be shaken.
So the powers, the principalities, the rulers of darkness in heavenly places, as Ephesians talk about, that's our enemies. That's Esau. That's the Chinese, the Japanese, everybody but us. See, the powers are going to be shaken because they see that their time is ending and our time is coming. And see, they're going to fall. Christ is going to bring them down. Verse 26.
And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory.
So why are they going to shake? Because they see Christ returning. They see that black man, the one described in Revelation 14 and 1, with woolly hair, with skin like brass that's burned in a fire. Well, we know anything that you burn turns out black. See, they didn't give that depiction. They gave you a white man with blonde hair and blue eyes and told you this is your God. But what they were really doing was describing themselves and saying, you're going to worship me. So we had to call them master. We had to call them Lord. We had to call them Father. Even the Catholic priests today want to be called Father. And y'all got y'all black butts up in there doing it. Come out of there. Verse 27, King.
And then shall he send his angels, and shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from the from the uttermost part of the earth to the uttermost part of heaven.
Come. So that's our great tribulation. It started when Jerusalem got destroyed. It started even before then when the disciples were being persecuted and put to death. And when does it end? When Christ gets back on the scene. See, you're still in captivity, whether you want to realize it or not. Because they let you serve in their military doesn't make you free. Lead a country, and don't get a passport. Don't go ask permission and see what happens. You got to go ask permission to even die. They make you go get a death certificate. Your family has to. You got to ask permission to get married. You got to get a marriage certificate if you want the benefits of the land of being married. See, you're not free. You're so used to slavery that you accept this as freedom. And then when you're looking at the things that's happening in the world right now, you can't see that's your deliverance. And if the Lord doesn't change my mind for next week, I'm gonna talk to Julian. If he's for it, then we're going to get into these world events. It's going to tie right back to this. This is the second part of it, and we're going to show you how your deliverance is coming. See, your help cometh from the Lord, but you keep turning back to Egypt. And we showed you Egypt just a place of bondage. This is your land of bondage of America. You keep looking to America for help. You said, we bombed Iran. We? You made a decision? I don't even see anybody up there look like us. But that being said, hey, King, you got anything?
La.
Hey, we're going to get back to main page. We're going to stop on sharing our screen. All right, King. We're going to log out here, and I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Hamashiach, Yahweh Shah. I think it was another informative class. Did we forget anything that we need to tell our people?
Just like I said, moving forward, same time, 7 p.m., but we'll be moving forward having this class on Monday. So next week, Monday at 7 p.m.
And I want to thank Jay and Lo. That's my wife, and she comes out every week, and she's scribing for us. I didn't look to see who else was out there tonight. Jacoby Moulton, hey, Shalom, King, Shalom. Appreciate you being out there. And we're going to start acknowledging y'all. We got to get y'all more involved in the class. So I just put a link out to the whole truth. It's on our YouTube page. And what we usually do is we let this class run for about a day or two, and then we go ahead and add it to the playlist. So that playlist will be this lesson will go to that playlist. There's another playlist out there called what was it, King? The last one that we did, family discussion. There are 33 lessons in there. They're very good lessons. Go check that out. We have another playlist out there called Foundational Lessons, and we have 4 lessons out there that everybody that comes into our community needs to get. Hey, Deba Shalom, Shalom. And we'll be adding to that. And Debash is one of the sisters in our community. She's very very good sister. She built a web page for us, and I got to get the information from her about that. I'll be talking to her husband either later tonight or tomorrow. We got to start putting that information out there for y'all to see that web page. That thing is awesome. She presented it to us at Passover, and so we want to go ahead and start really promoting that because all the links that I'm telling you about, she has out there. You got something, babe? Okay, okay. So Maria was just telling me my children out there listening to the class. So just want to say, hey, Shalom. Got anything to add, King? I can't think of anything else.
La Shalom.
Con. All right, well, we're going to end the live stream. Hey, love y'all. I hope that was beneficial to you. I hope that answered the question as to what Jacob's trouble is, and is going to be, and when it started and when it's going to end, and who are the people of God. See, you got to hide who the people are to confuse people about when Jacob's trouble is. If you know who the people are, we already know we're in Jacob's trouble. So, Shalom, Israel. Love y'all.